What's good, y'all? Welcome back to the podcast. If you're new to the podcast, go ahead and beat that like button up and show your boy some love and hit the subscribe button so you'll always stay in the know with Nino. And once again, this week's podcast is brought to you by Loudberries Clothing at loudberriesclothing.com, loudberries.com for the 420 clothing enthusiasts. Get all of your Loudberries clothes at loudberriesclothing.com. And if you would like to have your music featured on an episode of In the Know with Nino, be sure to hit me in my email at ninoincognito@gmail.com. I'll give it a listen, show it some love, and have it on the podcast. Now let's get on with the show. What's good, y'all? It's your boy Nino. Welcome back to the podcast, episode number 5. Yeah, we're moving on up in the world, episode number 5. And today's podcast is about why you shouldn't delete your so-called racist friends off of Facebook. You know, in the past 3.5 years, it's been kind of crazy with social media, especially on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, even on YouTube. You know, a lot of what you would call supremacists, whether you want to call them white supremacists or just plain racists or whatever you want to call them, have been a lot more freely with showing just how racist they are on social media. And a lot of people are realizing just how many of their friends have difference of opinion on a lot of political topics, especially finding out if your friend is racist. And I'm really, if you can't tell right now, I'm really talking about, black people with white racist friends or co-workers, especially on social media. And it's been bringing them out. If you see, like, with the tweets and the pictures, with the, all the police brutality that's been going on, people who contradict all Black Lives Matter with all lives matter. Oh, that's telltale sign number one. If you contradict anything of Black Lives Matter with all lives matter, like the man said, you might be a racist. You know what I mean? And it's a difference between being prejudiced, which means having a preference, having an opinion of what you like, what you prefer, versus being racist, the active participation of trying to keep somebody other than what you consider your own down. You understand what I'm saying? Trying to keep them out of the economy, trying to keep them out of the jobs, trying to keep them out of your neighborhoods. That's racism. It's the difference between being prejudiced, having a preference, and actually being racist, being part of the system. And like I tell people, the system's not broken. The system is doing exactly what it's supposed to do, and people on Facebook, they're getting online and putting all kind of posts up there. I remember when I was working at one job, you had it up, when the police brutality really started getting filmed a lot. Like Will Smith said, it's not new. It's just being filmed right now, So a lot of people, I'd seen a couple of posts at a couple of jobs that I had worked at before, even before I was at the radio station and all that kind of stuff, other little side jobs, I'm not going to name no names, nothing like that. But I would see posts up like, if you don't want to get in trouble with the police, you shouldn't do anything wrong. And I'm telling you, as a black man in the streets, as a black man who's had sour encounters with law enforcement, and I'm a Marine veteran, I'm a law-abiding citizen. I'm not perfect, I've jaywalked, I've done 5, 10, 15 miles an hour over the speed limit and all of that kind of good stuff, and I've been caught and I've paid tickets and fines, all that good stuff. No, nobody's perfect like that, But when you start trying to actually keep somebody down, that is systematic racism right there. You tell people if you don't want to get in trouble with the law, you shouldn't be doing anything wrong. And that is one of the most insensitive things that people can say, especially when like now recently, we were talking about the people, the police brutality that's been going on, the kneeling on the necks and everything, ever since from Trayvon Martin all the way up until today. It's too many names to name right now, but you know exactly who I'm talking about. When people start putting up Well, since where are all the parades? Like it's a 5-year-old boy that just got shot by a black dude. 5-year-old white boy got shot by a black dude in the neighborhood, somewhere. I don't know the exact, state, but it's been on Facebook. You've probably seen it, And then you get people on there, and it's really just white people putting it up there. And I'm sorry to say that, and I'm not talking all of, if you're getting sensitive about this right now, you might be racist. All the white people who out there who have no problems with what I'm talking about and can understand what I'm talking about, who understand what the Black Lives Matter movement is really about. It has nothing to do with the flag. It has nothing to do with our military. I'm telling you, as a veteran, as a Marine Corps veteran, Black Lives Matter and taking the knee has nothing to do with disrespecting the flag, disrespecting the country, disrespecting veterans. And it's usually veterans who haven't, people who haven't even served or actually have that prejudice bone in them to try to say otherwise. As a vet myself, you sign up in the service to go and fight for people's rights to say what they want to say. To have the freedom of speech, not to be free from consequences. And that's what people are getting confused. Freedom of speech does not mean freedom from consequences. All these so-called Karens out there and a lot of people trying to say all lives matter when it comes to Black Lives Matter. I love the analogy when people, that goes, okay, if you want to go all lives matter with Black Lives Matter, that's like your house being on fire, but the fire department comes down and starts spraying every house in the neighborhood before they get to yours. And you say, why are you spraying those neighborhoods? Why are you spraying those houses? Those houses aren't on fire. Exactly. That's what the Black Lives Matter movement. Black lives are on fire right now. We're being disproportionately attacked, brutalized by law enforcement. And it's not nothing new. That's what the word police, the police means to clean up. The police department was started back in the day to round up runaway slaves. So as I say before, the system is not broken. Not broken. It's working just fine. Understand that, But when you start talking to someone want to delete your friends, those so-called racist friends from Facebook, people who have differences of opinion. There are a lot of people who have differences of opinion when it comes to financial matters, when it comes to police matters, when it comes to racial matters. Yeah, it's nice. It's all right to have a difference of opinion when it comes to these matters, but when you are blatantly on the side of trying to keep people down of, if you don't like it, get out, we don't want to hear you. Why are you complaining? You got it good. Oh my God, that is some of the most insensitive. You might be a racist if you feel that way. Just like when it comes to the unemployment. People who say, you people on unemployment that's balling, they want that 600. That's just people who don't get the unemployment, who don't have to live off that. I got $137 this week on my unemployment check. That's way less than half of what I was getting on my base pay when I was working for the radio station. Not to mention what my commissions and remotes and all that other stuff was bringing in, which the majority of my check came from. You $137 a week, even at that $400 that they trying to put up, that's not even covering it. And you talking about get a new job that's disincentivizing people to go back to work. Now, I would love to have my job back. And anybody who's ever seen me do my job, anybody who's ever seen me at a live broadcast or on a remote, or heard me on the radio, or seen me at any kind of remote location doing any kind of like the blood drives, anything like that, you see a smile on my face every time, because I love doing what I was doing. So to say a majority of people are taking advantage of unemployment just so they can get that free check and not want to go back to work is incentivizing them, unincentivizing them, to go back to work, if that's a real word. It's one of the most insensitive things that I've heard people say. But don't delete the people on your Facebook or Twitter or YouTube or Instagram pages who have those opinions. Keep your friends close. Keep your enemies closer. How you gonna know what the enemy is doing unless you see what they putting up on Facebook and what they putting up on Twitter, what they putting up on YouTube? You start cutting it off. You start deleting them. They going back into their own little cubby and their own little circle and spreading that hate around in their own little circle like that. And we have no idea what their next move is going to be. Need to keep your friends close and enemies closer. You don't have to respond to what they're saying. It's going to be a lot of ignorant stuff that's going to be happening on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, all over social media, on everything from Black Lives Matter to police brutality to whether or not we should keep the electoral college, to the presidential election, to Donald Trump, to abortion. It's going to be all kind of people and all kind of opinions on both sides of the spectrum. And there are some people who just put stuff up just to get a shock reaction. Shock value. I got a couple of buddies online that just put up stuff just to get a shock value, just what they call stirring the pot. You know what I mean? Just to see how mad they can make people. But you can see people who repeatedly put up those totally insensitive, racially insensitive, politically insensitive, and actually mean it kind of posts to let you know where they stand. And they can be some of your closest friends. There'll be some of your closest co-workers. Might be somebody even in your family. Understand that, you know, just because you have a mate or a friend or a spouse of some kind that is of color, yeah, you can still be racist. Believe that. Believe that. So, like I say, the system is not broken, people. So don't believe that. The system is not broken. It's working just fine. So if you want to change the system, we got to change the system from the inside with the vote way before the presidential election, because the presidential election means the popular vote has the least amount of value in the presidential election because of the electoral college. There's a whole different set of people that are appointed to elect the president. Do your research on the electoral college. People in lower density populated states, their votes count more when it comes to popular vote and electoral college votes than people who are in densely populated cities and states like California, New York, Chicago. People whose votes in Utah, California, were less densely populated. When it comes to the electoral votes due to that gerrymandering, their votes mean more. But that's, that's a topic for another show. But when it comes to the social media, once again, don't delete your so-called racist friends off social media. You got to know what they're thinking. You got to know what they're talking about. You don't have to respond to everything that they say. You don't have to respond to anything that they say. If they're trolling you, if they're just coming on your page and just saying just most disrespectful stuff that they can say, okay, yeah, you can take the precaution or use your own discretion or whether or not you want to purge them from your friends list. That's up to you if they're trolling you like that. But, once they're on their own page or they're just randomly putting up tweets or posts or pics, that show their true nature, their true opinions on what they feel and what they believe when it comes to the Black Lives Matter movement, when it comes to the voting registration, when it comes to President Donald Trump. He is the president. He won. You got to call him that, whether you like it or not. But there are people who support him and there are people who don't. And sometimes I look at my Facebook page and in my feeds and I'm surprised at some of the people that I used to work with and used to, hang out with and just know that have those opinions that I'm like, oh my God, you feel that way for real? But I don't respond to it. I don't like it. I don't get angry posts. I stopped trying to convince people a long time ago. And that's what we need to stop trying to do. Stop trying to convince people to think the way you think. Just think the way you think and live the way you live and don't get in nobody else's way, But when it comes to the Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, social media, don't delete your so-called racist or insensitive friends off of it. You need to keep an eye on what they're doing. Thanks for listening, y'all. Catch me next week on the next video. Don't forget to hit that like button to show your boys some love. Beat that like button up and hit subscribe so you'll never miss another podcast.